go live on YouTube as well. So I never did a YouTube live before. So if I break YouTube, it's all my fault. So what's going on, Lee?
No. Well, I think it's time to get started with this. I'm looking forward to going into YouTube, but for the first time, really diving into this because there is such a critical integration between copy and design in terms of standing out with your marketing these days. And if you don't have those two things aligned, it's almost impossible to compete these days.
Yeah, for sure. So, I was talking to you offline about how great copy and great design need to play together. Otherwise, there is a huge disconnect with your audience's trust. Like, for example, I've seen really great copywriting on shit-looking landing pages. And, I'm like, is this guy a scam or is this woman a scam? And then I've also seen really pretty design with lackluster copy, which makes me just not interested. So how do we fuse the two together in a way that will really impact our target audience and get them to be, wanting and willing to pay for our product or service?
The starting point for me is always unpacking what I want to say and finding out what the audience needs to hear. And those two things are very, very different. And that affects copy and design in a very big way, because there are a lot of times that we put copy out there. We make these huge guarantees. I mean, if you ever seen like some of these like make money online products where they'll have the guarantee and they'll go on for like 10 paragraphs about how freaking great this guarantee is. If you're crazy enough to want a refund for some reason, blah, 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 blah. And they're making this huge deal out of it. And we think as marketers that like we're building trust. And to them, they're looking at it from a different angle and going, why are you making such a big deal about this? If you're making such a big deal about the refund and the guarantee, what's hiding behind the curtain here? Because ordinarily people don't need to like call that much attention to it, right? And that's just one example.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of business owners try to be copywriters. They try to be designers. They try to take on all of that workload on themselves because they feel like, well, it's going to cost me money to hire a copywriter. It's going to cost me money to hire a designer.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just take a stab at it. And then they sit in front of the computer for 5.5 hours and they realize, oh shit, what did I just do with my day?
Mm-hmm.
We could get into that conversation because a lot of my clients, one of the reasons why they come to me is to fast track the learning curve. Their time is extremely valuable and they're like, listen, I could do this myself, but that is going to take me away from the things that I need to do inside my business to keep it alive. Right. So,
that's absolutely right.
How do you talk to your clients? Because I know you deal with some clients like that too.
Well, I do deal with two different types of clients. I do have some who do prefer to have everything in their own voice. And so they do want to write their own copy. And that's great. I do coaching around that to help them do that in their own businesses. So really, I'm not really teaching copywriting in that case is so much as finding that sweet spot between your story and your ideal buyer's story, building that core message, because then from there, they feel comfortable and confident in creating messaging with their own voice. In other words, they don't have to try to make it salesy. They know the persuasion elements they have to build in, and beyond that, they're just essentially being themselves. And that really works very well for some types of people, especially coaches and service providers. But for the vast majority, it's like look, I know I've learned my own weaknesses, and I'm guilty of exactly what you're talking about. I've spent 3 or 4 hours, messing with a graphic to put on Instagram, and that got 5 likes, and it's like, wait a minute, if I add out that time, and if I'd applied that to, what I do, to what makes me money.
Yeah.
Good Lord, how much money could I have made in that time that I spent dicking around with this image, right?
Yeah.
When somebody else can knock it out in 5 minutes and go on about their day.
Right.
But I'm too dumb to pay $10 to have somebody else do it.
That's it. I mean, listen, paying for the assurance, right? We just had a funny thing happen yesterday. My neighbor and I were in the market for a new landscaper. The landscaper that we both shared was not cutting the mustard, and we needed somebody more reliable. We needed somebody that was going to do a better job. And, we didn't want to keep guessing as to when our lawn was going to get caught, especially their lawn. Their lawn's a lot bigger than mine. And so we got a new landscaper in, and he was considerably more money. And I told the guy straight out, I said, listen, I am more than happy to pay a premium just to know that it's going to get done right. Right. And that is it, and that's the name of the game. So if you're willing to pay to play, you're going to get ahead way faster. People ask me all the time, how the hell did you get to the 2 Kilometer Club? How the hell did you get this business to a 7-figure mark? Listen, I hustled my ass off, but I paid to play. Like, I paid these guys top dollar to get the shit done. Did I make a lot of mistakes along the way and hire the wrong people? Absolutely. But every mistake was a learning lesson, and I moved on. Now, Fit33P has a great question on Instagram. He says, this is going to be good. I think it's going to be right up your alley.
All right.
He says, I have a question. What about the rise of the overnight 7-figure coaches who talk BS? IG account jumps from 5K to 49K overnight. How is that building trust with your audience? Aren't people aware?
They're painfully aware, and I hear it every day, especially from the millennials. In fact, they think it's funny. I've got I'm friends with several podcasters who are, in their mid-20s, and they think it's absolutely hilarious how people in these marketing groups will sit around and congratulate each other for these like dipshit marketing things that they come up with, that they're like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. We're like, we're not going to buy this stuff. You guys can, high five and measure sausages all you want, but like, we're not buying this stuff. So at the end, it's not working. It's not good marketing.
It's horrible marketing. Look, I love the marketing videos that I'm seeing now by these overnights, right? They're prancing through the mansion, and they walk outside and there's a Rolls Royce, and meanwhile their Honda Accord is parked around the corner. Like that is the worst. No disrespect to anybody who has a Honda Accord. Much disrespect to the people that are trying to fake the funk, right? So, I just tell these folks, like, what are you trying to do? You're not fooling me, right? You're not fooling me. And I'm sure you're not fooling thousands of others. So just cut the shit and be you. Like, transparency and credibility in 2019 and beyond is going to make or break businesses. So if you want to continue to prance around the rented mansion and rent the cars or whatever, listen, go ahead, because you're going to leave the market wide open for me and Lee to really deliver a solid product, really deliver full transparency and real value to the audience and to the people that need us the most. It's almost as awesome as the 19-year-old life coach Dorian Avila says, which same thing.
Yeah. It's all kinds of life experience there.
Yeah. So I don't want to travel too far away, because Lee and we do have a tendency to do this, because you guys ask great questions and you bring up great concerns, but we do also want to deliver on our promise today and talk about ways to enhance your online presence with copywriting and design. So, Lee is more of the copywriting master. I am more of the design master. he's been doing copy as long as I've been doing design, if not longer. So, I want to just share a few things on the design side, and then I'm going to flip it to you, Lee. And
Okay.
If you could share some things on the copywriting side to really help these folks,
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I see a lot of my clients doing prior to coming into the Brand Accelerator program is they try to do too much with their design. So for example, they want their logo design to identify and explain everything that they do. Like for example, a construction company came to me recently and was like, we're looking for, we have a conceptual idea for a logo. We just need somebody to put it together. And they show me this scrappy napkin of a sketch of this big crane. I think it was it wasn't a crane. It was an excavator, inside of this logo design. And I'm like, here's a perfect example of them trying to get a logo to explain what it is that they do, when a logo is simply to identify what it is, who they are. And so they try to do too much with design. That's when you start to see multiple colors and multiple fonts and and imagery that is just so too much, right? And so my suggestion on the design side is to minimalize the design as much as possible. People are already confused. People are already overwhelmed. Don't overwhelm them with a design that's just over the top, trying to do too much. So that's one design tip I think will really help you guys simplify. So let me give you an actionable tip. One is, if you're going to use typography, if you're going to use any sort of text in the design, you want to do 2 fonts, no more, no less. Okay. You want to use one font that's bold, that will be used as your headlines. And then you want to use a subtext that works for the paragraph copy or the subtext, right? So, something that works well together. Like for example, my font for my business is Proxima Novo, and Proxima Novo has many different types inside of that font family. So I rarely deviate if I'm doing any sort of design from that font family. I may use different weights, meaning thicknesses of the font, but it's all the same font. So if you find a font family that you really like, look at the bold, look at the thin, look at the regular, look at the extra bold, look at the condensed versions of the font, and use those instead of going, Comic Sans for your bold font and, Times New Roman for your subtext font. Like those 2 fonts, they're the opposites of each other, So that's a quick little tip on the design side. So that's really going to help you enhance your online presence for sure when you start to come looking cleaner to the audience that you're trying to attract. So I'll hand it over to you, Lee.
Yeah, absolutely. So just keep in line with what you're talking about in terms of trying to do too much with the design. You definitely want to keep the copy simple and keep it centered around one aim. Your sales page, your landing page, your opt-in page, whatever, your email, whatever it is you want them to read, should really have one objective. And all of the copy in that piece moves toward that objective. Okay. Yeah. And then we see this over and over again when people are like, which you see, especially with brick and mortar companies, I shouldn't say especially, but they'll want to be like, we offer this, we offer that, we offer this other thing, and, hot dogs and excavation and, marriage ceremonies and, space travel and God, it's just, no, one thing, keep people focused. Unfocused, confused minds always say no. You were talking about the logo and trying to explain too much about what you do. Simply put, who are you? That's what I did. When I went to develop my logo, I went on Facebook to my friends, not my business contact. Well, some of them are both. And I said, what one word would you use to describe me?
Yeah.
Out of all the vocabulary in the English language, what one word would you use to describe me? And I took the answers that I felt that I saw most often And I just kind of meditated on those and the Phoenix was what came up. And then my designer was just like, hey, let's stick a bow tie on there because you're weird. Yeah. So, but very simple, but it speaks to me. It doesn't have a damn thing to do with what I do, but when people see it, they think skinny weirdo guy with the ball, the cap and the bow tie.
I never asked you what the Phoenix represented.
The Phoenix is simply rising from the ashes, reinvention. The reinvention part is important to me because as a copywriter, as a person, I feel that I constantly have to be reinventing, being reborn in a way because it doesn't stay static. I see so many people trying to use direct mail tactics that worked fine in 1973, but people are a little tired of it now, so that's what it is to me, is continually learning, growing, adapting, and evolving.
Oh, I love it, because I think your audience is really going to resonate with that too. Because, as a client and, a good friend of yours, I see that how that has such a, oh God, it just has Lee written all over it, and that's something that I really pride myself on too, is, I am not the same person that I was 13 years ago, nor was my business. I constantly had to reinvent myself in order to stay afloat. And that Phoenix is just such a symbolization of that. That's spot on. I mean, so that is awesome. So, the thing I wanted to say was, if your logo represents you, great, but will it also reflect the values of your audience? And I just wanted to kind of emphasize that point, because a lot of times people do design logos for them and they're off the mark because it does nothing for their audience.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, yeah. Absolutely. So love that. Love that.
Absolutely. One more thing I want to really throw in relation to what you were talking about. If you do use Comic Sans, I will peel your face off and glue it to my pumpkins this Halloween. Just don't friggin' do it.
Oh my God.
The same thing with Papyrus or whatever.
Yes. Oh my God.
Don't
Papyrus.
friggin' do it. It does not belong anywhere. Just don't.
It is so ridiculous. And what happens is we become romantic with our brands. We become romantic with our businesses because it's our baby, right? And we think that those fonts are good because we saw it on the side of the road one day and somebody else used it. So you know what? That must be a reason for me to use it because somebody else used it. Right. And I hear a lot of these, should I say the G word, gurus talking about, well, just model or just do what everybody else is doing because it's proven. I am so anti that, right? So if somebody's using that color design or that typography or, that imagery, you need to go and do that. I can't tell you how that is such bad advice, because then you get put into a Me Too mentality. Mm-hmm. You get put into a Me Too brand, and people are just going to be like, well, what differentiates you from this guy? Because you guys both look identical. Right. And now you're in a pissing match, and it's so much harder to try to then differentiate yourself again. Listen, it's all about your audience. The next tip I want to share with you guys to really help you and enhance your online presence is to design for your audience, not for yourself. Design for your audience, not for yourself. Because when you start to design for your audience, they're going to feel it. They're going to feel it. And that is when the needle moves and the sales start to generate, because they're going to know that you've done your homework. They're going to know that you really care about them. They're going to know that you feel them, you understand them, you hear them. And that's what's going to move the needle. I saw something recently in a book I'm reading. It's called Over Deliver by Brian Kurtz. And he says something in there that really hit me. He said, clients refund transactions. They don't refund relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you create great design for your audience, you are actually developing a phenomenal relationship with those people. And
Absolutely.
I believe relationship first and everything else second. And I just feel like that is something that a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners are lacking. They're going straight for the sale. They're going straight for the tactic. They're going straight for the easy win, when we all know, anybody that's been in business for over a decade like ourselves, we all know that those small wins or those quick wins, you're only as good as your last win. Where for me, I'm more long-term thinking. I'm more, what's the long play of this? Just be patient. It's going to work out. And that just brings a whole different vibe to the audience and to your business. There's a couple comments here I want to address here on Instagram.
Sure.
Dorian Avila says, good tip on the fonts. He goes, he always feels like he's forced to pick a different font. So now fight that habit and stick with the font family or a font that's really going to connect with the primary font. Urban Creative, I love his comment. He says, copy is for the brain to buy. Design is for the eye to view or see. Design doesn't get you sales. Copy does. I would fight that a little bit. I think design does help you get more sales, because here's what happens when you start to invest in your personal brand, when you start to invest in your business. I'll give you a quick example. People are going to recognize that and they're going to want that. I had a brand accelerator client come in recently, 2 weeks ago, and she said, I've studied your brand for 3 weeks before I reached out to you. And I said, I want this for my business. And my design alone of my website closed that $10,000 deal. And so I would challenge that statement a little bit, because I've experienced something a little bit different. But we do have a question from Michelle Skosek. Can you give an example of building a brand for your audience and what it isn't? We hear so much about be yourself. How is this different? I'm going to take a stab at that.
It's really interesting. There is a lot of that be yourself thing going on these days. And I think that in a lot of ways that gets horribly misinterpreted. I would come closer to saying find a facet of yourself that resonates with an audience that needs you. Because I don't show, I'm a very transparent person. I'm very willing and open to admit my faults and my weaknesses, but I also know that people don't want to hear about that. In fact, the first time I ran my coaching program, one of the students mentioned afterwards, she said, I get that self-deprecation is kind of your shtick, but a little bit of it goes a long way, and too much ruins your credibility. So that was something about me that's, even though that's a natural part of my personality, I found that overemphasizing that aspect was compromising my ability to deliver value because of that credibility factor, right? So yes, that's a part of me, but it's one that I had to dial back. So there's a difference between just go be you and be you in a strategic way. You can be authentic, you can be aligned without showing everything.
Yes, I think that is absolutely a smart play. I think what happens is when you become too vulnerable too soon, there's not enough context there for somebody to gather whether or not they trust you, whether or not you're credible. And that is something that I would just be a little bit cautious about, because, ever go on a date with somebody for the first time and they spill their absolute guts to you and you walk out of there and be like, who the hell was that? Right. It's one of those things, right? And Chris Voss talks about this no, it's not Chris Voss. It's Warren Berger, great book called The Book of Beautiful Questions. And Warren talks about how you sort of want to play tennis with your audience, right? If somebody shares something vulnerable to you, then it's okay to share something vulnerable back. So it's that game of volley, right? And when you have a conversation with somebody like that, it's way more comforting. It's way more entertaining. It's way more natural. What else is the word? Comforting. So like it's you don't feel weird. So like that is a beautiful way of sort of managing that vulnerability. What I would say is when you're building a brand, a few just fundamental and foundational questions that you have to ask yourself is, who am I? Okay. What do I do? Who do I do it for? What's my point of differentiation? And how do I do it? Like, ask those questions to yourself. And that is really going to start the building blocks of your brand. And that's going to share a lot of insight to your audience. And that audience is either going to pick up on that or they're going to repel it. And listen, that's not bad. If somebody is like, listen, I'm not driving with this, that's perfect. I'd rather them say, no, you're not for me, versus I don't know yet.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. There's some value in being polarizing, which both of us are astoundingly good at, I found. I want to circle back to a second. I had a couple of notes when you were talking about designing for your audience and not for yourself. Yeah. That means breaking out of the traditional rules. I mean, in music, and I'm relearning music theory because I haven't picked up an instrument in decades, and I'm pretty much starting over. Okay, but you have to learn those fundamentals before you start breaking rules. If you follow the rules, you get okay music. You start breaking the rules once you know them, you get great music. You get interesting music. You get groundbreaking music. You get music that sustains. And it's the same thing with marketing. Okay. Yes. In copywriting, yes, you have to know the rules of persuasion, but if that's all you're doing, you're going to get more results. Yeah. And you have to be willing to move that through that. I mean, like I've heard over and over again, right on what is it, 8th grade reading level, 7th, 8th, it's something like that. If you're supposed to write all sales copy on like an 8th grade reading level or 6th or something like that. But here's the thing. Who are you talking to? You talk to an astrophysicist like that, they're going to, they're not going to take you seriously.
Right. And that's the whole point of really knowing and understanding your audience. And, any brander or anybody in the marketing industry or has that line of expertise associated with them, they will always go back to that as the number one for branding and marketing and design and copy. How the hell do you know what to design? How the hell do you know what to create as copy if you don't know who that exact audience is? Exactly. And I think people have a hard time niching down and narrowing their focus to one segment of audience. And I'm telling you, that is the biggest mistake you can make. I fell for that a long time ago as well. I wanted to save the planet. And it's impossible to have one message that sweeps all industries, right? So what I would, and this is something that you taught me, Lee, it's okay. It's 1000% okay to have segmented audiences. So if you want a particular message to go out to professional athletes, then that's a message that you craft and directly send to them, and forget about all the other segments that you serve. If you want to send out a message that goes straight to entrepreneurs or online marketers or fitness professionals, whatever, you send that message clearly out to them.
That's right.
It's okay. It's okay. Got some really good. He's got, oh my God, Lee's hysterical. He's got sound effects in there. He's got sound effects and everything.
Sidebar: Do you know who Bob Clark? Damn it is.
What's that?
Bob Clark. Damn it. No. Apparently,
wait. I didn't hear what you said. I didn't hear.
No, his name is Bob Clark, but he always introduces himself as I'm Bob Clark. Damn it. Yeah, he's got a podcast called the 808 podcast. Anyway, he's weird. I'm going to be on there tomorrow night. So,
Yeah.
Equally
so
weird.
There's Dolly on YouTube who's actually chiming in. Dolly Schisler Ferreras. She says when she used to sell real estate in San Francisco, she mostly talked about them, her clients, right? And she said she made a logo that looked more like a franchise. And I thought that I can understand, because a franchise logo is much more, what's the word I'm looking for? The franchise logos that I've seen, a lot of them look like they've had some work done to them, and some thought, some real strategy was put into that logo, because it was going to represent many, many locations across different what's the word I'm looking for? Geographic locations. Right. So when you make a credible logo, I think this is where she's getting at. When you create a credible logo, you will be taken more serious, what will happen as a result? You're going to be able to charge more. You're not going to have to deal with the nickel and dimers, because you're just going to negate those people. You're just going to negate those people. So, here's another thing about design, right? Great design is going to level up the value of your business. So if you're out there and you're charging $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $40,000, we just closed the $40,000 deal last week, right? Awesome client, nice. Right? If my design looked like shit, they would have said to me, how do you get off charging this kind of money when your stuff looks like this? Right? And then there's this confidence issue that I believe entrepreneurs have when they are struggling with their lackluster design. When they have a design that doesn't really represent who they are, their confidence level when they are at the sales conversation should be at a 10, and it's at a 6 or a 4 or even a 2. Mm-hmm. And I hear that all the time. I want a brand that I'm proud of, that truly represents me and the value that I deliver. And when you do that, you just change the entire dynamic. You really do start to show up like the expert, the authority, and people are way less ready to question you because you are put together, you're polished. That's like, it's that old, where the hell did I see that case study where the guy wore the lab coat and the other guy didn't wear a lab coat, and they both went in and they both played doctors, right? And mm-hmm. the doctor that wore the lab coat got more business because the client or the patient just trusted that doctor way more because he freaking wore a lab coat. That was it.
Right. Yeah, it's a symbol of trust, right?
Right. It's a symbol of trust. And I love the way you put that. So great design equals a symbol of trust. Mm-hmm. So phenomenal stuff. Man, listen, I think we're getting better at these. I really feel good about this live today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, considering we had no idea what we were going to talk about until 2 minutes before we jumped on here.
And here I am.
We're getting good at winging it.
Yeah, here I am thinking I'm going to break YouTube over here for going live for the first time.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we do have to bail here in a few minutes, so I do want to go ahead and get this wrapped up. Final thoughts on design and copy for strengthening your brand.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, folks, two things that you must have to elevate the status of your business and really make it more impactful and more influential is great copy and great design. And if that is not your stronghold, if there's any monies that you want to invest in, it is design and it is copy. That's it. Like, really have somebody who has that expertise. And listen, you'll never hire the specialists, not the generalists. So if I were to tell you that, listen, I could do your copy too, that'd be a lie, because I am a designer by trade and my team really focuses in on design and brand identities. We hire out for the copy. We have a copywriter on our team that does all of that for us. And when we're ready, when the copy is complete, then we create the design around it. And that is how we create such beautiful brand identities that connect and resonate, is because we spend the time, we spend the money, and we invest in great design and great business. Think of it like this: great design and great copy are weapons of mass destruction when it comes to marketing and branding.
Absolutely. Two of the most important elements, and two of the elements that are both art and science. And those are two things that are both art and science. Because I mean, honestly, there's a million funnel templates out there, and you can grab one and try your luck with it. But knowing what works, what doesn't, from a design, from a functional standpoint, from a copy standpoint, that's definitely an art that takes a lot of time to learn. I mean, it's some people have their musical art, and some people have other art, and we have our marketing art, so to speak. So
that's it. I mean, listen,
well worth investing in.
Stay in your lane. You go faster that way. And that is the god awful truth. And if you really want to expedite the growth and success of your business, you have to be ready to pay to play. You have to. Screen on the mic to help balance out echo. Okay, so we're still getting a little echo. Drew says so.
Oh, okay.
We'll work on that for the next live, but thank you. I appreciate that, Drew, for giving us that heads up.
Oh, for sure.
So any parting thoughts on your end, Lee?
We've talked before about how the direction that marketing and copy is going, it's going simpler, shorter, more to the point. But you've got to get your story in there. You've got a lot to do in relatively few words, because people don't read. I mean, unless you're in a very specific demographic that likes to sit around and read stuff like that, people are getting more and more impatient, especially if they've seen it before. So if you're putting out what the gurus are telling you to put out, eventually everyone's going to have seen it, and they're going to see the first few lines of it and say, you know what? I've seen this all before. I don't need to hear it again. I don't believe it, which is why people are coming to me and you and saying, help us. People don't believe in our offers anymore.
Yeah. So again, it is very, very important to show that credibility, show that transparency and authenticity. Mm-hmm. Those are buzzwords going around, but they have been going around for the ages because they still hold true today. And that is definitely something that is going to be needed much more in the future, because you're right. Just people don't trust anymore. And it's a shame, but we did it to ourselves. Right. And so we need to go and now fix that. And you'll notice that the ones with true authority, true credibility, and true transparency will prevail. And those that won't do it won't. And listen, just focus on doing great work for your clients. Focus on being, just putting in 100% effort in all of your relationships. And don't be the tit for tat. Be the giver, not the taker. And you will see a dramatic spike in sales, business, relationship, interpersonal communication, everything. And that's going to build a real healthy brand long term. So
That's right.
There you have it, guys. Before you guys jet, I want you to go over and check out my man, the Lee Rowley, on Instagram. It's Rowley. If you're watching on YouTube and you are not familiar with my Instagram account, go check out the Brand DR on Instagram. Put out a lot of great content over there for you guys as well. And thanks for everybody that showed up on Instagram Live today. You guys are amazing. You guys have some great questions. And I'm sorry we couldn't get to them all, but stick around next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. We do it every week. And Lee, thanks again for jumping on and providing value to my audience.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your commitment to providing value as well. And we're changing marketing, one little bit at a time. And I think we're making it better for the people who want to put in the work, who want to do it right, and who really were in this for the long haul. So,
Beautiful. I love the sound effects.
All right,
So,
enough.
Real quick, guys, on Instagram, Facebook, if you like this type of content, you find it valuable, please share our accounts to other folks, other entrepreneurs that will find this content valuable, because we can't do this alone. And we're looking for your help to spread the word and spread the value and spread the knowledge to people that really need it. Because it's not just about designing brands. It's not just about creating words on a website. It's about changing people's lives and helping them, pave the way to a fulfilling life, and a life that they're happy with, and a brand that they're proud to promote. So have an amazing day, guys. Take care, Lee.
All right. Thanks a lot. We'll see
catch
you
next
time.
week. Later. That was, hold on. That was awesome, dude.
Are we done? Okay.
Yeah.
We're offline. Okay.
Oh, hold on. I got to stop it on